What's going on, guys? Bob Buskirk here at ThinkComputers, and today we're taking a look at a Z97 motherboard from ASUS. It is their Z97-A, and it's pretty much the entry-level board when it comes to their mainstream series. So let's just go ahead and check it out. The Z97-A comes in ASUS typical motherboard packaging. On the front, it is pretty plain, which actually I do like, not a ton of things on the front. The big feature that they are showcasing here is their 5-way optimization, which of course we're going to go over in our full review. It has some other things listed like what it supports and all of that. On the back here is where you're going to find a lot of the information. So you're going to get a full rundown of the entire motherboard and some of the main features, which again, we're going to go over in our full review. So let's just go ahead and see what we have inside here. So go ahead and open it up. And the first thing that we do have is the motherboard itself. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out and move that out of the way. And we'll get to our accessories here. We do have our I/O shield, and one thing that I'm seeing with this I/O shield, it is labeled, but it looks rather kind of cheap, actually, compared to other ASUS boards. But you have to remember, this is the entry-level board in the Z97 series, so you have to think about that. You have two different cables here, or two bags of cables. One has a single cable right there, and then this one has two cables inside, SATA cables. You do have your Q connectors, which again, when it comes to ASUS boards, this is one of my favorite things. What these allow you to do is for your front panel connections, you can go ahead and connect everything to this little thing, and then you just plug this into the motherboard. Just makes it so much easier. We do have our SLI bridge, which does have the ASUS logo on it. We have our drivers and chipset and all that stuff, utilities, DVD. There is a user's guide, which is pretty in-depth, goes over pretty much all the features of the board. And then we actually have another booklet, which is the Z97 exclusive features. And going into that, it just goes over a lot of the features, especially a lot of the stuff in the BIOS, which of course we're going to go over in our full review. So taking a first look at the board, you can see that ASUS has gone with a different color design here on their mainstream motherboards. The main difference is that the heat sinks are sort of this silverish gold, not really gold, but I really don't know what you want to call it, like a silverish gold color on the two heat sinks up here and on the one that covers the PCH. And you'll notice the one that covers the PCH is actually a circle, which actually kind of looks pretty cool. You know, if you have a window in your case, it is going to look, you know, just going to look different. It's something different that ASUS has done on these motherboards. Now, the board is actually not black. It's more of a brown, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it doesn't look completely horrible. And then your accent colors are a sort of darker gray with a black. Starting at the CPU socket, this is Intel's LGA 1150 socket. So you're going to have support for current Haswell processors and then Haswell refresh processors, which of course are coming down the line from Intel. For power delivery, you have an 8-phase all digital power design, and then your power delivery components are actually covered by these two large heat sinks right here. And again, they have this sort of off gold type color. Up top here, you do have an 8-pin power connector to bring power to the board, and then your two CPU fan connectors are actually right here. So you have a CPU fan 1, which is at the top, and then you have a CPU optional fan connector right there. Moving over to the memory slots, this supports dual channel memory. So you do have 4 slots right here, and they are color coded to denote which channels they are. So when you're installing your memory, you know if you only have 2 sticks, you'll put them in the gray ones, and if you have 4, of course you're going to fill the whole bank up. You do have a Memo K button. What that does is if you're having trouble getting the system to boot with your memory, you install new memory, you don't know your timings, and it's just not booting, you hold down the Memo K button, and what it's going to do, it's going to find the right timings and actually help the system boot. It's very useful, again, if you're installing new memory or you get memory saved from a friend or something like that and you don't know the timings. We do have an easy XMP switch, we have a 4-pin fan connector, we have our 24-pin ATX power connection, and we do have a USB 3.0 header right down there. So moving down to our storage options, we have the brand new SATA Express port, which is actually, if you look, it's basically these three right here, and this is a single SATA Express port. So we haven't seen a whole lot of storage options with SATA Express, but of course they are coming down the line. So ASUS, of course, has prepared that on this motherboard for future storage options. You also have 4 SATA 6 gig ports right there, and you can actually use the 2 on the SATA Express as well. So that'll give you a total of 6 SATA 6 gig ports. And you can also see, again, as I mentioned earlier, the round heatsink here on the PCH. It just looks really cool. Again, gives a different look to the ASUS motherboards. Moving down to the bottom of the board is where you're going to find the rest of your connections and headers and all of that stuff. So what we're going to do is start on this side, and we have a couple switches. We have our EPU switch, we have our TPU switch, we have a 4-pin fan connector, and then we actually have a clear CMOS jumper. Usually we see buttons for that, but again, this is an entry-level board. So if you want to clear your BIOS out, you of course push that over, or lift this up, put it over, and then go ahead and power on your system, and it will reset your BIOS to the factory settings. Now, going along the bottom here, we do have our front panel connections. We have another 4-pin fan connection. We have 3 USB 2.0 headers. We have our TPM header. It looks like we have a power switch, so it is kind of cool to see a power switch on an entry-level board. Just makes it a lot easier, especially since we'll be testing this in a test bench. We don't want to use a normal power button on a case, so that's just good to have. We do have a COM port, and then you do have your HD audio. And over here on the side, if you guys can see right here, we do have the Crystal Sound 2 chip, which again, we're going to go over all of its features in our actual review, but it does have the same thing that we've seen in the Republic of Gamers board, where they actually separate the PCB completely, so less interference, better sound quality, all that stuff. That is all in the Crystal Sound 2 chip, and again, it is completely separated from the rest of the motherboard. Now, as far as expansion slots go, you do have 2 PCI Express 3.0 x16 slots, and the way those will operate, of course, if you have a single card installed up here, it's going to run at x16 speed. If you have 2 cards installed, they are going to run at x8 speeds. You also have a third PCI Express 2.0 x16 slot at the bottom right here. You also have 2 PCI Express 2.0 x1 slots, and actually 2 legacy PCI slots. You also have your M.2 slot right here, if you can see that right up there. Very hard to see, but that is for the next generation form factor solid state drives. Perfect for a caching drive or perfect for an OS drive, just right there on the board, so you really don't have to worry about a secondary storage solution. As far as connectivity goes, on the back of the board, you do have full-size HDMI, DisplayPort, VGA, DVI, 2 USB 2.0 ports, 4 USB 3.0 ports. You have a legacy PS2 port. You do have gigabit Ethernet, and then you have your audio connections. So this wraps up our complete unboxing and overview of ASUS's Z97-A motherboard. Remember, this is the entry-level board in their mainstream series. So make sure you check back very soon on ThinkComputers.org, as we'll have our full rent review. And remember guys, if you like our videos, why don't you subscribe? Catch you guys later.